will share with you the classic horror story, The Black Cat by Edgar Allan Poe. Poe is one of the darkest and most mysterious writers of 19th century American literature. The hardships and tragedies he experienced in life added a profound psychological depth to his works. The Black Cat was written by Poe in 1843. The story explores themes of crime, guilt, and the darker aspects of human psychology. What begins as ordinary events in a small household slowly turns into a terrifying descent for the narrator. Poe's masterful storytelling, his tension, and eerie atmosphere draw the reader into a deep, unsettling darkness. At the center of the story is a man's relationship with his pet cat and the dark side of his own nature. Every action, every glance becomes a heavy burden on his conscience and sense of guilt. Now, take a deep breath and slowly step into this dark, psychological journey. I am about to tell a story both strange and terrifying, yet it happened in my own home. I do not expect anyone to believe it, and perhaps it is madness to tell it at all. Yet I am not mad. I feel it with every sense of my being. Tomorrow I will die. Today I must speak to unburden my soul. I want to share a series of events that began as ordinary household occurrences, but which brought horror, torture, and destruction into my life. Some may see these events as simple and natural. Perhaps a calm, logical mind would reduce them to ordinary causes and effects. But for me, they were terrifying, and I cannot pretend otherwise. I had always loved animals, dogs, cats, birds. They were my companions and friends. Among them was my favorite, a large black cat named Pluto. He was intelligent, gentle, and followed me everywhere. At first, I treated him with care and affection. He responded with trust and devotion. But over time, I began to change. Drinking grew in my life, and with it, a cruel temper I could not control. The kindness I once showed turned to violence, and my love for animals gave way to a dark cruelty. One night, in a fit of drunken rage, I harmed Pluto in a way that still chills me to remember. His cries echoed in the empty house, but I felt nothing but a fleeting, cruel satisfaction. The house grew colder, darker, and silent. Shadows seemed to move where no shadow should fall. From that moment, my life became haunted. Pluto's presence, once comforting, became a reminder of my own depravity. Every corner of the house whispered fear. My mind, once orderly, became a storm of guilt and terror. The night I harmed Pluto, a dark rage took over me. I cannot fully explain why I did it. Alcohol, anger, or something darker within me. But the deed was cruel beyond reason. I cut out one of Pluto's eyes. His scream echoed through the silent house, chilling me even in my brief moments of satisfaction. The sight of him, wounded and trusting, filled me with a strange mixture of triumph and terror. Afterward, I tried to avoid looking at him, but his gaze, sharp and knowing, followed me everywhere. My own house became oppressive. Shadows seemed alive, whispering reminders of my cruelty. I could not sleep. I could not eat. My nights were filled with the soft, haunting cries of Pluto, and every sound in the house became a signal of the horror I had caused. Guilt and fear began to gnaw at me. I realized that from that night, nothing would ever be safe, neither the animals, nor the house, nor my own mind. Days passed, and the house grew colder and darker. Pluto survived, but his presence was no longer comforting. His single, piercing eye seemed to watch me constantly, as if he knew every dark thought I had. I tried to drown my guilt in drink, but it only worsened the horror. Shadows shifted in the corners of my vision. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the curtains, reminded me of the terrible act I had committed. My mind became restless. Sleep was impossible. I would lie awake, hearing Pluto's soft, haunting cries. The fear I felt was not only for myself, but for the consequences that I sensed were coming. It was during these nights of sleepless dread that I first noticed a strange, creeping change in my home. Objects seemed to move slightly, noises echoed where there should have been silence, and a heavy sense of doom settled over every room. Some weeks later, a new cat appeared at my door. He was almost identical to Pluto, with sleek black fur, sharp green eyes, and a strangely familiar presence. But this one had a peculiar white patch upon his chest. At first, I welcomed him, thinking he might soothe the emptiness I felt. Yet, almost immediately, I sensed something was different. The new cat followed me everywhere. Even when I moved quietly through the house, he seemed to appear just out of the corner of my eye. There was an intelligence in his gaze that unsettled me. It was as if he knew what I had done, as if he were silently judging me for the horrors I had inflicted upon Pluto. Days turned into nights, and the house itself seemed to change. Shadows stretched longer than they should have, lingering in corners where there was no light. The floorboards creaked as if under invisible feet. Even the walls whispered, or so I thought, carrying faint echoes that seemed to mock me. At night, when I tried to sleep, I could hear the soft, almost imperceptible sounds of the new cat moving through the house. Every rustle of fur, every scratch of a claw against wood made my heart pound. I felt watched at all times, never safe, never free from my own guilt. The presence of this new cat became unbearable. He was not merely a pet, he was a living reminder of my own cruelty, a constant shadow of the darkness I had unleashed. I tried to avoid him, but even the simplest glance in his direction filled me with dread. My home, once a place of comfort, had become a prison of my own making. I began to speak to him quietly, hoping to calm myself, yet the cat would only stare back with those accusing eyes. Every night I felt the tension in the house grow heavier, as if the walls themselves were pressing in, and every room seemed alive with a silent, creeping threat. The new cat's presence grew unbearable. He seemed to follow me everywhere, silently, watching with those green, knowing eyes. I could no longer ignore the guilt that had taken root in my soul. Each day, my mind twisted further into paranoia. One evening, in a fit of rage and fear, I snapped. I grabbed an axe, and in a blind fury, I struck. My wife entered the room, horrified by the violence that erupted. In a moment of unspeakable horror, I killed her as well. The house was silent again, but the weight of my crime pressed down upon me like a living thing. I tried to hide what I had done, concealing her body in the walls of the cellar. For a while, I felt relief, but it was short-lived. The new cat, the black cat with the white patch, seemed to appear everywhere, even in places he shouldn't be. His haunting gaze pierced through my moments of false calm. I began to hear sounds, scratching, soft meows, and even faint, eerie wails. The guilt, fear, and dread became a constant companion. Every shadow seemed alive, every noise exaggerated. I was trapped, not just by the law, but by the memories and horrors I had created. The cat became my tormentor, my living accusation. My life, once ordinary, had descended into a nightmare. I realized too late that no hiding, no denial, no rationalization could save me from the consequences of my own hand. Days passed, but the horror did not fade. The new cat never left my side. He would sit silently in the corner, watching, as if waiting for me to finally admit my guilt. I could feel my sanity slipping, each day more fragile than the last. Then, the inevitable happened. The authorities came, investigating the disappearance. Confident at first, I led them through the house, hiding my terrible secret behind calm words and feigned composure. But the cat had other plans. In a moment of tragic revelation, wife's body was hidden. A loud, hollow cry came from within the wall, echoing through the house. The police heard it immediately. They tore down the wall, and there she was. The truth, long buried, had returned in full force. My crime was exposed, and the cat, who had haunted me all this time, seemed to watch with silent triumph. My guilt, my fear, my horror, all of it could no longer be hidden. I was left alone, surrounded by the consequences of my own cruelty, with only the black cat's green eyes to remind me of what I had done. In the end, I realized that evil cannot be buried, and guilt cannot be silenced. It waits, it watches, it returns, no matter how hard one tries to escape. And so, I am left, a broken man, tormented by memory, by conscience, and by the silent, unyielding stare of a black cat. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the black cat. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe so you won't miss future stories. Leave a comment if you'd like to share your thoughts. Take a deep breath, relax. Until next time.